Oh, yep, we're good now.
Okay, let's try that again. So far, the luck of the Irish maybe hasn't been with us, but welcome to Lunch with Linda. I'm Linda Daniels, and you are now inside Northampton Wolves, and happy St. Patrick's Day to all of you celebrators out there. There were lots of parades over the weekend, but the big one in this area isn't until next Sunday. The Hoyok St. Patrick's Day is one of the oldest St. Patrick's Days parades in the country. And if you grew up in the area, it was certainly a part of your life. I know I have lots of memories from watching it as a kid to watching it, my children march in it when they were in the high school marching band. So, welcome. It was a wonderful week. We had a lot of business, a lot of new people in the store, and I, of course, have some stories to share. But I wanted to first talk about Irish knitting, which is this that I've got on kind of thing. I actually bought this in Ireland last year when I took that little trip with a bunch of people. It was one of the first days shopping and found it, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And so did everybody else. And I keep saying I'm going to make a pattern for it, but I have not yet found the time. It's kind of a poncho
Oh, kind of a vesty.
vest and just enough warmth on a rainy, coolish day like today. Fairly easy enough. But Aran Knitting has become known for the cables. And the book that's the picture, start picture, is this Aran Knitting by Alice Starmore. This is the paperback copy, and there are hardcovers out there as well. You can probably find one on Etsy or for resale. I'm not sure if it's in current publication. I didn't check that. It's about $30. But Alice Starmore is a well-known name in the world of modern Irish and Fair Isle cable and Fair Isle knitting. She and her daughter live on one of the Aran Islands and have their own company, and I think still do. The book not only has a lot of cable patterns in it, she also really dives into the whole history behind Aran knitting, where it came from, what it means, really demystifies some of those myths that you've heard me talk about before. And I was looking up a little bit of history as well, and the 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 thing that sort of tipped Irish or cable knitting into popularity was an article in Vogue magazine in 1950. It led, they did an article showcasing some of the Ireland offshore knitters who were part of creating the Irish sweaters that were for sale for people who came to visit. And through that article, people began to take more notice of this unique area specific craft. One of the places that we got to visit when on our trip to Ireland was Anne O'Malley's shop in the heart of Galway. It is now closed, but Anne had spoke with us about what her business had been, and it was actually her family, her husband's family business. But they would contract with women who would knit at home and would give them the sizes that they needed to make. She would give them the yarn that they needed to make it out of, and then she pretty much let them make their own things up. And that's where one of the ways where one of the places where that myth of, I'm not going to say it's a myth, but that story about certain areas having certain patterns came from, because these patterns were all done orally. There wasn't anything written down. Little Sue O'Malley, who sat there knitting in her house, would try a different cable, and then she would share it with neighbors, or even go back to the main island and share it with Anne. And Anne talked about how many of her knitters brought her new designs or new ways of doing something, and she was able to share it with all of the other knitters that she had for hire. And she had, at one point, over 150 people knitting for her. It was really remarkable to be in her store. And when we were standing in line, there were two young women who came and had armfuls of yarn. And Anne spoke with them, and they told her that they were the grandchildren of a specific woman whose name, of course, I didn't even hear, never mind remember. And they were gathering up the yarn for her to knit. And Anne had a long kind of talk with them. They did not knit, but she was one of Anne's knitters. And then not too long ago, this is a small world story. Not too long ago, I had a man in here who was dropping off an Irish knit sweater for repairs. And we were talking, and he wanted to know about having me knit a similar sweater for him because he wasn't able to get the Irish knitter that he had had do that sweater again. And come to find out, I said, oh, well, I was in Anne O'Malley's store. And he goes, oh my God, that's the name of the person that I had knit the sweater. So she had an international business going. And so we'll see if he comes back and will hire us to do it. So she took custom orders as well as having her knitters knit for the stores all around Ireland that sold their hand knit items. So St. Patrick's Day is, I think, a special day in all knitters' hearts. Even if you've made one cable, you have followed in the tradition of many, many knitters. So get those cable needles out and ready to go. Like I said, I think you can still find copies of Alice's book. They are exquisite but complicated. They are cable heavy sweaters. You can find patterns on Ravelry that don't have as many Candide yarn. Used to put out a couple of really nice, fairly Irish patterns, and Bernat. If you, in your flea market or tag sale explorations, ever come across a Bernat Aran knitting book, grab it because they're no longer being published. And Eleanor Bernat was powerfully influential in America with collecting and publishing these classic Aran designs. I'm sure you have come, if you've been knitting for a while, come across them or used one of her patterns. So this week, Brianna is teaching a brioche class, and we need a couple of people in that class. We have one person signed up, and we'd really love to have 2 more people. It's a basic brioche class. You're going to learn how to do it in the round with 2 colors, and once you conquer brioche, you will just feel so empowered and so good about yourself. It is not a difficult technique to learn if you sit down and spend some time with it. And this will be Brianna's first time teaching, so we don't want to overwhelm. We don't need 18 people in the class, but we only have 1 person signed up right now. We really, really would like to have 1 or 2 more people so she's not entirely by herself.
So the way that she learned brioche makes me think she'd be good at teaching it because she kind of like, it was sort of mysterious and a struggle for her, and she kind of like loved it at the end.
Yeah, it is. It's certainly one of those things that you can learn on your own. And she did sort of jump into a couple of brioche patterns without knowing that they were brioche. It's kind of like a lot of the knitting that I did previous to the store was I didn't know what I didn't know. And I didn't know that I should be scared of it. I just did it and figured it out. And this was well before YouTube to help along the way.
So her brioche skills came at the same time as her knitting, you know? Like...
Exactly. Grew with her knitting because she hadn't knit much before that. So yeah, I think Kate's right. She will be a very good teacher because she has a good understanding of brioche and can help you in your beginning brioche knitting. Susan Barron is also doing a brioche class. Hers is going to be start out with the simple techniques and then take you into the increasing and decreasing. And we do have room in that class as well.
So we should say what day of the class is. So Bree's class.
Bree's class is on Wednesday, this Wednesday,
11
and
to 2.
11 to 2. And you can sign up right online. You just need a size 8 circular needle, 24-inch, and 2 colors of worsted weight yarn. And it's one of those things where you don't even really need to make anything. You just need to practice it. And you'll come out of that feeling great. People often ask me about the history of brioche, or why is it called brioche, and I did a little bit of investigation on that too. And what people have been able to find is speculation that this technique originated in the Middle East, not necessarily in the European countries. So we're talking about Turkey. They have a rich knitting tradition there. What else is Middle East? Iran, Iraq.
I'm bad with geography.
Yeah, all that Mediterranean area. And originally they think that the design was for a cushion that looked like a French bread, like that braided French bread, and somehow got named for the two of them. And that the first record of it is in, I want to read this so that I get it right, a book called Handbook of Needlework by Francis Lambert, published in 1842. Wow. So it's been around since then, never really popular because it was intimidating, I think. But we're very fortunate to live in the time that we do, because a woman named Nancy Marchand, who is the probably queen of brioche, wrote 2 really wonderful books. And if you need a brioche book in your library, you definitely need her books. Nancy Marchand, Marchant. And she not only took a deep dive into brioche, but she came up with a lot of the modern day terms that we use to describe the actual technique. So there's a brioche knit stitch and a brioche purl stitch, which she has abbreviated as BRK and BRP, which are often stated as Burke and Burp. So if you want to find out more about that, you should check out Nancy Marchand. And of course, Barbara Walker, who began to put together stitch dictionaries a very long time ago, also has some brioche in one of her stitch dictionaries too. So if you want to take Brianna's class, please sign up. And if you want to find more about it, you can look at Nancy's books. I know hers are still available. One of the things that I talked about last week was this new yarn that we got from Louisa Harding, the Gabrielle. This is a sparkle yarn that is spun in Italy. It's cotton rich boucle with a hint of sparkle. So it's a very soft cotton yarn, has a lot of nubs in it. In this case, they're gold, but really, really pretty. And the skein is huge. There's 373 yards in each skein. I took 2 skeins home, and I made one of my famous little rectangle ponchos. I think I can put this on without disturbing the mic too much. Basically, I knit a rectangle and sewed up the side seam, folded it in half, and sewed it together. And man, the drape on this stuff is fantastic. Can you straighten it out, Kate?
It looks good on
a little
green.
Bit. Yeah, over black, I think this would
You got
be
this big collar back here.
amazing. Yeah, of course. Just a little bit.
Oh, it's so pretty.
So really, really easy. And in fact, I didn't even use all of 2 skeins. There's enough so that I could have kept going and made this a little longer, but I wasn't sure how big it would be once I blocked it. I did just kind of soak it and let it hang to dry, but it only comes in the 2 colors. It comes in this beige background and it comes in the black. But 2 skeins of this, and I'm pretty sure we have, in fact, I know that we have the poncho pattern as a free pattern on our website, so you can download it and print it right off. But this is going to be the perfect thing to jazz up or dress up a black dress over the summer. give you just enough if you're going out at night. I love the idea of wearing this to Tanglewood, or maybe you have subscribed to the plays down in Springfield or West Springfield. But boy, this will be in the shop now so that you can see it. Really, really easy and smooth to knit. It kind of variegates a little with the gold and the black.
What size needle did you use?
And I used a size 8 needle, which is one size bigger than the pattern calls for 7, but I tried it on an 8 because I wanted it to be loose. There's it's actually a little bit of a boucle, which you see more when you knit than you do when you're actually looking at the skein. It kind of shows up, but when you knit it, it shows up even more. See that little wrinkle in it's the way the yarn's wrapped to give you that little bit of boucle.
Like
so really simple, quick knit. That's the kind of knitting that you can, if you are into the whole March Madness and you're going to be watching a lot of basketball, it's the perfect project for non-involved knitting. You can watch those games, not miss a score, and have something at the end that you'll be happy to wear this summer. I got a lot of projects finished this week, which I'll be showing you over the next couple of weeks. But it prompted a discussion this past week with how many projects at once. It's an ongoing question. And a couple of people were in here talking about they could only do one at a time. We've talked about this before. Or somebody else said they have up to 8 projects going at a time. And in my position, I have to have that many projects going because I have a lot to do. And if I can bounce from project to project, then it seems like they all come together at once. And I actually find that it's harder on my hand now to concentrate on doing just one thing because the movement is very much the same. Whereas if I move from project to project, I kind of give my hands a little bit of a different kind of feel or movement.
Like different
so it changes. If I go from crochet to knitting or from knitting cables to knitting flat, it makes the move different. But I am telling you this story because the woman that I was talking to said that she has a lot of projects going on and she might be a little more in line. She works on a project every day or several projects a day, but she always takes one day off a week. And during that day off, when she does not knit at all, she looks at Ravelry, she looks at YouTube videos, she listens to the podcasts that she's interested in, she organizes her needles, she does all the other little tasks that are related to knitting that you still get a lot of enjoyment from, but gives her hands a complete rest. So I found that really interesting too. Isn't that a good idea?
It's such a good idea. I don't think I could do it.
I know. But we'll have to try.
I do it accidentally sometimes.
Yeah, so do I. It's like, okay, 10 o'clock, I'm going to stop knitting.
But
okay.
I don't know if people can hear me, but spending time with your yarn is
just
so
as fun as knitting it.
It's like going shopping at home.
Exactly. I did a little bit of that kind of reorganizing, and you know what? I have a lot of paper. I still like to work my patterns from paper rather than from the computer. And my God, everything's on the computer. But I almost always print out a pattern, sometimes more than once, because I can't find it after I print it out. Anyway, I had stacks of paper all over my office. And part of my cleaning for spring was grabbing all of those stacks. And I put them all in a big cardboard box. And then yesterday morning, I had some time and I went through them. And I organized the patterns into what type, sweater, cowl, shawl, my design, things I need to knit. And I put them all in separate containers. Found the one pattern I was looking for that I didn't have to print for the 4th time. And it felt good. It felt like, oh my God, yes, I remember that. I want to knit that. Or it felt like, oh yeah, these are the class patterns that I've used before. So even doing something as simple as that gave me a couple of hours of not sitting there with knitting needles in my hands. We also had sisters in here that came to visit together, and they told me that they have always had some sort of knitting competition. They might, can you grab one of the maps for me? They might be knitting different things, but that they've always talked about who was going to finish first, who was going to get the farthest, and they were really, really funny and fun to have in the store. So you can compete with your friend, you can compete with a relative, but it was really neat to see sisters doing that kind of competition. The other thing that I got knit this week was with the unicorn. Oh, that's what I was going to do. I was going to pull pairs of colors, and I didn't have a chance. This pattern is from Trendsetter, specifically for the new unicorn yarn, and it looks like this. So I got the pattern, and we need models done with this yarn. This is the brand new merino wool hand dyed that we're getting from Trendsetter from Gazelle, and it is as soft. One of the softest merinos. No, do really opposite colors, like a gold or. And so when I saw the pattern, because it's taken them a while to really come up with some patterns, this is their first one. They did a simple side-to-side cowl. This will be sewed together so that it goes over my head and looks like a little bandana cowl. Really simple garter stitch, and it has a little yarn over pattern here at the end. Now I haven't blocked this yet because I just finished it last night. The other thing that the pattern did was take their yarn called Brilliana, which we have, which is a sparkly yarn, and they crocheted around some of the edges, but I don't think it needs it. The other thing is that it's on a slightly larger needle. This is a size 9 needle that I knit with, and I feel like it's a little bit on the loose side. We've noticed that the Gazelle yarns are kind of pushing the larger needle sizes, and I think that they really will work better at a smaller gauge. So this was on a size 9 needle. It's got a lot of drape, but it's also got a lot of droop. And I started a hat because I had a ton of yarn left over. So this was one skein of each color, and I have enough left over of each skein to make a hat. And so I started doing a doodle hat, which is another class that's coming up at the end of the month. And I'm knitting this on a size 7 needle. And this makes the yarn, gives it a lot more body and a lot more texture, and I really like it much better. So when you look at this yarn, the labels are going to say 1 needle, but we're going to encourage you to try something smaller. So what I didn't do, that Kate is doing, is putting together some color combinations for this particular cowl. That's good, Kate. I tried to do something that it would appeal to a lot of people, and there are lots of different combinations. So we know, you can see Kate's hand in this right away.
So I tried to do some
You
cool
did
ones.
great
Look at
ones.
this one.
Yes. And the brown and green. So they kind of do a little bit of a solid color together with something that's a little more variegated. You could do 2 variegateds like these two. This is neat, this blue and this gray, because this gray has a lot of that blue tinge to it.
Oh, that's what you did.
And that's good pick. And the green and the pink. And there's a white. You could always do a color with the white. We will have this pattern here because I started to knit with it, and guess what?
What?
Right away, there's a pattern, problem.
Oh.
It says to cast on 25 stitches, and then the first row of direction comes up with 24 stitches.
Oh.
Number 1. So I'm gonna make those corrections. And the other thing that I did was they did not do a slip stitch edge. And I just think that garter stitch, whenever you do garter stitch, looks so much better when you slip the first stitch with the yarn in front. So basically you're slipping the stitch purlwise and then knitting the row. And I did that on both sides, and it just makes such a neater finish. So that's tip. Always slip that first stitch. If you're making a scarf, a garter stitch scarf, slip it purlwise, first stitch of every row. So I will print more of these patterns out, and I'll write the corrections on the pattern. Otherwise, everything was fine. And this will be free when you purchase the yarn. Doesn't it feel nice?
I love it.
Great. Okay. Lots of cotton in. We're in full swing for end of winter, beginning of spring and summer. I have had to order more of the Anchor Bay. I've talked about that yarn before. It's so pretty. It's a cotton and wool blend. And we have sold so much of it already that I just went ahead and ordered every color. So we'll be getting more of that in. And just as a reminder, it is that marled cotton in a, it's not really variegated, but it does go from light to dark. So we'll have more of all of these. We have plenty in because this is, I mean, we have enough in so you can make a t-shirt top and, oh, let's see, where did I put it? They just published a really great t-shirt pattern, which I can't find.
We'll put it in the show notes.
I'll put it in, we'll put it in show notes. It's a free pattern on Cascade's website. No, I did not fold it up and put it in here. I didn't. I had my hand on it. It disappeared like all paper. Okay. But it's a really great t-shirt. It only takes 3 skeins. That's what's even better about it. And this stuff is still under 20 bucks. Quick little note. We're starting to see some tariff charges on the thing. And I hate to see the price increases, but I think we're going to, especially by the time fall gets here. So be prepared. One other quick little story. We had a family in with one child, and the mother was looking around at yarn, and the child was a bit antsy. So the father sat the child down over in the seat on the window and gave her the Pioneer Valley map. This is a map of downtown Northampton and Florence and Amherst. It's a great little tourist map, and we, of course, are listed on the map. He gave her the map, and he said, see if you can find where we are and see if there's anything else that you might like to visit.
Oh.
And I said to, eventually I said to them, well, you might want to take a look at A to Z. It's a great toy store straight down the street. So by the time the mom was finished, the little girl had found several of those places, and they were planning on how to get there. And she's folding it up and handing it to her mother and telling her mother that they found some places to go. And she said to her mother, and Mom, look, now you could use this instead of the map in the car. And it was such a generational kind of, oh my God, remember when we had to have these in the car to figure out where we were going?
Yeah.
And now this generation is so used to, there it is, right on the screen, in the car with a voice telling you when to turn. It was just such a funny moment to see her get pleasure out of a piece of paper.
I know.
Instead of the internet. So darn cute.
It's a fun map. It's kind of got cartoons.
It's very fun. It's very fun. And it is really just of downtown. All right. I think that is it. We will be open Wednesday through Saturday this week from 10 to 5. And hopefully it won't get too cold and we won't see any more snow. We really don't want to. I love spring.
Yeah, we need the rain.
Love it, love it. And we need the rain. So enjoy your week, and don't forget, you've still got plenty of time, and I hope that you find time to go knit something. Bye-bye.